All right, we're back. We're back at Legacy with Zach Even-Esh. Zach, man, I was looking at your stuff today. I got to be honest.
It's about time.
You do a lot of really cool stuff. And our goal here is obviously to educate people on strength training, show people how to become better athletes, more resilient to injury, and just become better people overall. Of course, before we get going we just got through, like, we could have talked offline for like 10 hours.
Oh, yeah. I love that, though.
That was so much fun, but that stuff nobody needs to see. But I'm alongside this man over here, Bryce.
How we doing, guys? Appreciate it.
Yeah, why don't you come over this way? I don't bite, maybe.
I mean, you bite
Yeah. So nonetheless, this is a very special episode. I want to talk about basically whatever Zach wants to talk about, because he's so full of information and just knowledge, and actually putting this stuff into practice. So a lot of people have all these strength theories. I was just talking about this the other day, Zach, is that people come in and there's this new bodybuilding philosophy that a lot of people, these hypertrophy nerds, right? And I like to call them that, where they say, oh, you don't need to squat for big legs. You don't need a deadlift for a big back and big posterior. You don't need, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? Science might show us that, but like, there's just something about actually doing it and squatting versus not squatting. And then looking at your legs, you're like, oh, wait, squats build big ass legs. I don't need a science piece of paper to tell me that. So that's why actually being in the trenches shows you what works and what doesn't beyond what the lab does. So with that said, enough about the hypertrophy nerds. Why don't you tell us more about yourself, sir?
Well, dude, I like that topic because are you in your 40s yet, Mark? Or
well, I mean, I know I look in my teens, maybe early 20s, but yeah, I'm turning 42 in a month and a half. Oh my God.
Nice. Yeah. So I'm like I'm a little older. I'm 46 and I'll be 47 in 2 months. But I started with bodybuilding. So to hear you talking about what guys of today think you should do. So my first gym that I trained at outside of the YMCA, which those YMCAs of the 80s and prior were all York barbell equipment. So guys were, there wasn't any Norless equipment at this facility, but YMCAs were hubs for powerlifting, bodybuilding, weightlifters. So what did you see when you walked in? Squatting, benching, RDLs. The only machine that you would see would be like a dual leg extension, leg curl, and then a cable crossover machine. So when I transitioned out of that YMCA, I went to a gym where, do you remember Richie Gaspari?
Oh, Rich, a good friend of mine.
Okay, well, I'm from Edison, which is where Rich is from.
I've actually trained at his home gym there a couple times with him. Rich and I go back a long way.
Jersey. What's the town? He's in Ocean, New Jersey. Is that where?
Man, I mean, wherever GPS told me to go.
That's how I am.
Yeah, and then we ate at a diner. That's the thing out there, diners. And then he got like clam chowder. I've never seen a bodybuilder eat clam chowder, so that was weird.
That is interesting. And
it is interesting. I was offended.
Clam chowder. So in where he trained right before he moved to California, he was pretty young. I started training at this gym called Dynamic Fitness, which was 7,000 square feet. The owner welded everything. And, I have a lot of ADD, so I'm going to bounce around. So you mentioned,
this is going to be fun.
Yeah,
it's three of us.
And I'm not even, it's not like I smoke crack, but people would think, So you were mentioning being in LA, you got the gym, Iron Addicts. I'm friends with Ivan, who's, his dad is the president of Ivanko. So this gym had all Ivanko deep dish plates. So I learned how to train in a gym where you heard plates rumbling. Yes. And the stacks on the machines, like the cable row, the lat pull down, where, most gyms go up to like 250. These would go up to 350. You'd see guys pinning 45s on each side. So I entered a gym where I learned that even the bodybuilders were training to be strong. Yes. And there were a few powerlifters in this gym that actually didn't even look anywhere near as big as the powerlifters, as the bodybuilders. So it kind of swayed me from powerlifting. But what was cool was near the back of the gym, they built a platform. And the way they built it was they took car tires, two car tires stacked up on one another. They framed it out with wood, put the horse stall mats on it, and there was just a squat rack, no plate storage or anything on there.
Wow.
And it was like, you were so fucking scared to actually go on the squat rack, even if the power lifters weren't there, because you're like, I will get murdered. You had to earn your way up there. So anybody who was on that platform was like squatting 5 plates minimum, but they had dumbbells up to 180s, which I would see guys bench.
Yes.
I actually, I trained so many high school athletes. So at the high school I'm at, when the kids work hard, I'm like, if you guys work hard today, I have a story for you. So I'll have stories about like Rudy, who was benching 500, or Crazy Eddie, who always did just sets of 1 to 3. Like he would even max out on like 1-arm preacher curls. So like 110-pound dumbbells, so I share these stories that people don't know of, because, people are saying you don't need to squat. So from that gym, when I was late 18s, close to 19, I started training at Diamond Gym, which is like West Side Barbell. It's like the West Side Barbell of
Diamond Gym's a legendary place.
Yeah, so I trained there from late 93 till about 2002. And when I went in there the first time, what do I see guys doing? Rack pulls. You see bodybuilders fucking traps like busting out of their shirts.
All the veins coming through.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, this is where I need to be.
Yes.
It was normal to see guys incline benching 3 plates. And that gym was like, everybody who was there was always winning the bodybuilding shows. And you didn't, the cool thing back then is you didn't have AirPods or anything. So the music at Diamond Gym was very loud. John Kemper wanted it loud for 2 reasons. One, to dissuade you from talking to people. And number 2, he wanted the atmosphere pumping. And so the music was always, back then it was CDs. It was always like, because you weren't far from Manhattan, a lot of those guys were bouncers in New York City, or they were bodyguards for people. So the music we had was either made by a club, a DJ from a club, or a DJ from a nudie bar.
Oh my God. I love gym stories. Like my first real gym was Gold's Venice, which at the time, right now, it's a bunch of retired actors or people who want to be actors who suck at it, who are actually waiters. So back when I trained at Gold's, it was when you'd walk in there and Cormier and Flex and these guys. And I remember the first time I remember the first time I saw, and people don't like, I always take up for Mike O'Hearn, and it's literally probably cost me so many followers. Like, where he's natty. I'm like, I don't know, man. I saw the guy train it was 1996. I was 16 years old or 15. And I remember he's there and he's a couple years older than me. Nobody really knows his true age. I think he's a vampire. And this guy was on the reverse hyper. It was like when it first came out.
Oh, wow.
And he was with a group of people, and his ex-wife, Mindy, is currently ex-wife, was his wife at the time. And I remember he was doing like 7 plates on a side. And I'm like, is Mike O'Hearn simply the only case study of someone who trained like that perfectly and ate perfectly for 40 years? Like, I'm serious. Like, this guy was a beast before he became a beast. And I remember, I'll never forget, that was like my first time at Gold's. And I'm like, I saw this beautiful man with this flowing hair, and I'm 16 and I'm like, I want to be. And now that I'm friends with him, it's kind of weird because I was like enamored with him in sort of, it was a somewhat weird way. It was somewhat gay, just a little bit. But I mean, I was like, that guy's inspiring. I was so amazed by what I saw. And he was surrounded by big and beautiful people. Like Mindy was gorgeous. And I'm like, this is what I want. And it was heavyweight. And then he'd go deadlift. O'Hearn would deadlift like 6 plates on a side. And he'd reverse grip bench press like 4 plates.
Oh, geez.
Well,
I've never seen. You got to see O'Hearn in person to truly appreciate. Look, man, I've taken drugs. I've never done what he's done. Like, even if he's on drugs, holy crap.
But look who he was mentored by when he was up in Washington as a kid. He learned to train with Doyle Kennedy.
Yeah.
Who was like, he's a legendary powerlifter of the, I think the 80s. Those guys didn't have the really strong squat suits and the
Mhm.
gear, the support gear. So they had to get strong naturally. So he learned it's basically like learning to be a gang member on day one with the Hells Angels. And he's also a judo black belt,
He's a freak.
which he doesn't talk about much, but I know he competed. So I'm a little older than you. So I also was very enamored by you'd have to wait to look at Flex magazine and Chris Cormier always lifting heavy with Rico McClinton and those guys.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually
I
went
worked at the
to
magazines at those times. 99, I worked at Flex and Muscle
so
Fitness.
I went to Gold's. I stayed in California for 2 weeks the summer of I feel like it was 99, possibly 2000. And ironically, like we probably would have met because I was a step shy of moving there
Oh.
and just gonna be like a trainer. But like I couldn't figure it out. I was so like young, didn't really know what the heck I was gonna do. I'm like, can I just be a personal trainer all fucking day? And the only guy that was training people there was he
Charles.
still trains people. He was
Charles
training the pro athletes. You probably know his name.
It's
He's
not
been
Charles Glass, is it?
It's not Charles. He trained athletes. So there was like
Oh,
you know who I'm talking about, right?
yeah. I mean, I was there. I used to train between there and Bally Total Fitness in Culver City, and man, it was an era. And getting back to free weights, and this is such a topic that really hits near and dear. Like I love science. All of us are science nerds. I can
100%.
I can 100% say we're all science nerds. But
Yeah.
there comes a time when you have to kind of extrapolate, overall systemic work, right? And I look at squats, and you look at leg press, and okay, cool. Like you look at like a closed chain versus open chain. You look at compound, but leg press, you're putting so much force on the hip and the knee joint. Whereas a squat, you're actually absorbing it with your entire body.
It
So
makes it has this
nuts.
overall effect on your body. And also, there was a difference in the bodybuilders from Diamond Gym compared to other gyms that were machine based. You had this like thick, dense look, very much like the golden era bodybuilders, which makes sense because John Kemper, he was, a golden era
Mhm.
bodybuilder. And so you're right. And I remember when I competed in bodybuilding, this guy says to me, who was a competitor, he goes, Zach, don't let anybody tell you anything different. Heavy benching is the way to a big chest, meaning people were going to start saying, hey, do flies, do cable crossovers. He's like, no, you fucking load that bar, you bench heavy. That's what he said.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
So-
just gonna sit here and listen to this whole thing.
No, I mean,
unravel.
well, this is where it gets fun. So you have your own training methodology.
Yeah, I don't ever say like I've created. What I've done
It's
is
what you
like
deliver to your athletes, right?
yeah, but
Can you
I
explain that
think
to us?
I think what the advantage to what I've done, very similar to you, Mark, is you started with bodybuilding, but back then bodybuilding was legit power building. So you
Yes.
understood, as soon as you start building muscle, you're getting stronger. So I take that kind of old school bodybuilding methodology because athletes today, they lack muscle. They
Yes.
actually need muscle to get the performance effect. Then you guys mentioned science. Like I was looking, I was like, what books are on my desk now? Do I have like Zatsiorsky or do I have like the jump training manual here? And so I blend the methodologies of what Louis Simmons, who he really learned from. Of course, I used to talk to Louis on a weekly basis on the phone like crazy. So I blend this kind of old school bodybuilding with the science that the Russians or the Soviet Union, even before Russia, implemented to build athletes because I work with youth and high school kids predominantly.
Same.
So I build them up. And ironically, even when I coached at the Division I level, those guys were behind the eight ball. They were high level wrestlers, but they were not high level strength and conditioning and sports performance. And so the training, I always say I do whatever the athletes need me to do, but I get them strong, explosive. I utilize movements and a warm up that builds athleticism and greater coordination. And then I could really eyeball the physique. If I look at your physique and you need more muscle, that's what I do. If you don't move with power and explosiveness, I incorporate more jump training and throwing of medicine balls and different sprints from different positions. And then I guide them with nutrition. And so I'll pull information from early 1900s physical culture, like George Hackenschmidt's book, The Way to Live, or Herman Gorner's book, Gorner the Mighty. I actually did a little plug here, but I think you guys would enjoy it, especially now that you can watch YouTube on a TV.
Yeah.
On my YouTube channel, I have a playlist called Iron Roots, where I showcase an old book, an old training method, the origins of 5x5 or Zuver's Gym from California. And so I'll take information from all over. And that's, I think, what a great coach should do. And by the way, I never think I'm great. Every day I'm like, get better. That's what runs through my mind. But I think great coaches, they're never like, I don't do that ever. Like, guess what? There's times where I don't do stuff, but then it depends on who I'm training, what they need. And of course, the more advanced the athlete, the more things out of my toolbox I can borrow. But I still implement bodybuilding methodology to simply build muscle with athletes. And you're talking about like the people saying, hey, you only leg press. I remember near my later years at Diamond Gym, this one guy started, going on steroids. I can't remember exactly what it was he was going on. And I heard the guy who was selling to him saying, just do pump-up weights. Just do pump-up weights.
Oh,
and I was
goodness.
like,
no.
Yeah. So I would see him. He would always train on like his lunch. So my college was not far from there. I'd go there on my lunch, and he never got bigger. And I remember it hit me like, wow, you still got to lift fucking heavy.
Yes.
To actually make shit happen.
Yes.
Although, as you know, you and I being this bodybuilding background, I witnessed the evolution of, chemical warfare, meaning bodybuilders hovered the big guys around 230, 240. Then the 1995 Night of Champions, Nasser El Somebody showed up around 275, ripped. And so everybody was like, whoa, we just took like a 40-pound jump. And I remember when Nasser came out, one of my buddies from Diamond Gym is like screaming from the top. It's at the Beacon Theater. He's like, holy shit, and then, and Richie also competed. It was like, part of his comeback.
Yeah.
His frame could not hit. When he would compete, he was like 205. His frame was not built to be in that 230, but these other guys that were taller, and now we see bodybuilders 300 plus pounds.
It's insane.
Ripped. But of course, we also see a lot more of them dying. And
yes.
It's like,
yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of scary. I do miss the stuff I saw from bodybuilding of the 70s, the 80s, because they took like, I don't know what they took, like B-ball and a couple other things. And, but guys I trained with also have died, on not taking a lot of drugs. So that stuff always scared me. I was such a, scared of it.
It should. Yeah. I mean, these guys, at the end of the day, you're dealing with enlargement of the heart. You're dealing with lipid profiles out of whack. So while you're not going to inject a steroid and die immediately, right, it does lead to cofactors or comorbidities that will kill you. So I think that when someone's getting into bodybuilding or any kind of sport where you have to augment your performance or whatever, that you need to look at the pluses and the minuses and everything involved, and if it's worth it for you. And even athletes, like, you don't see many NFL players, big guys, living a long time, because even if you're an NFL lineman, you're still obese. You're still putting a lot of stress and wear and tear on your body. And, so you just got to look at the bigger you are, the sooner you fall. And bodybuilders are really big, and combine that with ventricular hypertrophy, and you have issues. So my whole thing is, you look at that, and bodybuilding has gone that route, unfortunately. But, at the end of the day, when we watch football, there's a big hit on a kickoff. Right, I was watching the Tampa Bay game, and there was a big hit. It was actually the play was called back anyway. And I'm like, that's what people want to see. But no one, when that guy hit the guy, is like, oh no, he might get CTE later. Like, we want to watch the hard hits. We want to see the home runs.
And listen to this.
Yeah.
My buddy John Wellborn played in the NFL for just shy of 10 years, his 10th year. He was just kind of done with all the injuries, but he was told, I can't remember who said it to him, if it was a head coach, but they said, listen, football is a violent fucking sport run by rich white people who want to see people hurting each other. And he's like, that's the truth of it. And so I coach also at a high school, strength and conditioning, and our football meeting with all the parents, I said to them, I'm a dad with 2 kids, and my job is to protect your kids. And the way I could protect your son in football is I need to get him stronger. I need to put on muscle, like a suit of armor, body armor. And I need to get your son like grit, toughness. And I said, that being said, the training is going to be tough. It's going to be demanding. And that is the only way I can protect your son. And so today I see my football coach, and a kid I used to train in middle school took a bad tackle or tackled somebody and had to get back surgery. And this is a kid who does the right training. And so you even have a high risk there. And then you were mentioning CTE, not far from Diamond Gym. There's 2 schools in that area where one kid died on the field. The other one died in his sleep from concussions, kind of gone, like being dismissed, like tough it out. And so here's what's happening, fellas, is in sports. And you mentioned you have a daughter. So my kids, I have
2 sons and a daughter. One plays football, one wrestles. They all play soccer, and then my daughter's soccer.
Yes. So they're like high school age.
So I have 2 high schoolers and a 9-year-old. So my 9-year-old is the one who plays football. He's the big one.
Yep.
Then the little one, the smaller boy, wrestles, but he's a sociopath, so he's meant for wrestling.
Yeah.
So
what's happening with sports is we're seeing, because of the highly organized, like all the clubs, is you don't have a middle ground where kids could show up and say, hey, I'm going to try baseball for the first time in high school. You have kids that have been playing baseball since age 5 getting cut from a freshman team, because you got other kids that have been with a strength coach in 6th grade playing baseball year round. Same thing in football. The kids who are starting, most of them are very fast, very powerful. And then you have kids that are like on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. You have kids showing up for freshman football, unable to do 1 push-up. Now, with kids like that, and I remember you were on Marc Bell's podcast a bit ago, but I remember Marc saying that one time a kid came to his gym to train at super training. Maybe it was a high school kid or somebody in the early 20s. And he's like, man, like, you're not even going to be able to do any of this stuff. He didn't have machines. He's like, you should join a gym for 3 months and just do every machine in that gym for like sets of 10 to 15 to build muscle. Because when you have no muscle, if I put a bar on your back, you're going to be like a tree in the wind. You won't even know what to do. And so that kid should leg press, leg extension, leg curl, chest support, all the hammer strength machines, cable, like just build muscle for 3 months. But, there's all this information, there's your YouTube channel. There's a gazillion other YouTube channels giving them the blueprint, but people are still not doing it, because eventually I think you got to go within and like watch Rocky 3 and just say, I'm going to fucking run and do push-ups. And what else did he do? Military press and jumping with a log. Like
Rocky 4, if it's snowing, of course, because you got
those 2 movies
and the Cold War.
Like do some of that shit. But guess what? You have, high school kids saying to me, I can't squat I always squat narrow because my hips are built this way. Then you find out the kid, watches like Dr. Mike Israel's videos. And I'm like, bro, fucking less YouTube and more lifting.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's different methodologies. Like I love Mike. Mike's a good guy. I actually competed at USA's with him, where I got my pro card. But He didn't get his, so I guess I'm right. He's not. No, but Mike, his physique's funny. He's just a big, strong dude.
And he's
right?
funny. I will give him that. He is so fucking funny.
His advice is for hypertrophy. It's for hypertrophy based on his data and methodology.
Right.
However, like I'm not doing a Smith machine controlled squat for hypertrophy for football. You know,
100%.
I'm not doing it. So like they're using essentially they're overloading the hell out of the muscle, and they're big on what we kind of shit on at the beginning of this episode. They're big on the machines, the controlled range of motion.
Which is what I did in high school. And I looked big and was not fast. And I had a lot of injuries because
it's a fixed plane. Like you're nothing on the field is fixed. I want to have some chaos. You know, I like we got those little blaze pods things. It's controlled chaos. You got lights going off, you got sounds going off, you got to remember what to do. So what's going on the field, you have fans cheering, whatever sport you're in.
Or
you have your mom yelling at you. You have you go to a Ravenwood versus Brentwood Battle of the Woods. That's a big deal. There's literally they have their student section literally talking shit about you until you cry. You know,
see those people think that's like I actually tell kids I'm preparing you for when you go to the away game or the away match when they're like, hey, your sister's hot. Do you have a hot mom? Like they will scream that shit.
You're preparing for battle.
We're in Brentwood, Tennessee. There's a good amount of hot moms here. So that's usually me asking that question.
It's funny.
It's funny as this is talk about ADHD. I said to my wife last night, so our kids play football here. I'm like, the football moms are kind of hot out here. She goes, what are you saying? I'm like, I was just making an observation. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, just stating the facts.
You've been at the games. I told you because I'm like, Bryce, like,
I'm just saying what Bryce said.
Women are hot. So I had to blame it on you.
That's fine.
No, I didn't blame it on you. I'm like, dude, I told Bryce, I'm like, I just want what I was saying, what I meant to get at, which sounded like I was just a complete sicko. What I was getting at is these women are probably more health conscious, which means they'll probably want their kids to train with us more. Right. But it came off as I want to have sex with all the moms. I thought I was going to get stabbed. My wife's Italian.
Get stabbed for those things.
Yeah.
My wife's Italian, but she can't stab me on Rosh Hashanah Eve.
That's right. Wait for tomorrow.
No, but I mean, speaking of ADD and ADHD, like you go to Coach Zach's Instagram, you got a sled push with a sled drag, and then tune into more ADD and ADHD, and him talking about the first time he was at a gym where basically those mobsters were a part of it. Yeah. If I'm correct, I listened to it this morning.
Oh yeah, I will. So I finished writing a book that's part, I don't know, like hybrid fiction, nonfiction. And so some of it's real, some of it's things that happen, and then I tweak the outcome. I have to get the whole publishing thing organized with that book. But I trained at gyms where there were mobsters. I told you guys I trained at gyms where, the guys were bodyguards for people in Manhattan, or they were doormen. I mean, I remember the night of champs, I was 19. I was in the China Club because the guys that lifted at Diamond Gym were the doormen there. Yeah. And guess what? That's how you earned respect at Diamond Gym is Zach lifting heavy. I remember, you mentioned somebody who passed away. Derek Whitsitt was a pro bodybuilder. He saw me squatting and he's like, man, you got a good squat, kid. And to me, that's what I just wanted to earn the respect of those big guys. And it pushed me to work hard. Now today, you go to a gym, everybody's got their AirPods in. It's disconnected. And I miss the power of that, like camaraderie and the learning. I would eat my meals in front of Diamond Gym on the outside stoop, and you'd be talking with somebody else who's preparing for a bodybuilding show, where they'd be like, Zach, this is why you're not getting big. Like, you're eating chicken and fish. You're going to eat steak, and you're going to try this creatine that we've got. It's like now they miss that interaction. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, I trained around dangerous.
Well, they have the phones, but
we were talking about this at the gym today. They're literally in the same. They're in the same gym, and they're all on their phones. First of all, you're in the gym, put your phone down. I only pick up my phone to film my epic sets for the gram,
I
which
hate
is
when I have to
completely
do that
acceptable.
though.
Yeah, you got
But I mean, you during that time, like that's the golden age of everything that went down.
Oh God! But can I before I forget this? So what I've noticed
This is
locally,
the ADD podcast.
yeah. Oh, dude,
Oh,
yeah.
100%.
So what I've noticed is, and this was a problem not where I was, but in Texas and Florida when I was a kid, is there's these things called SARMs, which are basically they're like steroids, but you could buy them over the counter as a research chemical, whatever.
I didn't know that.
I've noticed locally that a lot of these kids, these athletes they're not necessarily doing steroids, but they're taking these substances that can affect them in the long term as far as fertility and a lot of side effects we don't even know because they're not really that studied. And if they are, it's in a dose. For example, I think it's ostarine, which is one of them. The studied dose was 3 milligrams. The caps are 50 milligrams per capsule.
Jesus.
It's kind of the difference between drinking 8 ounces of water and 8 gallons of water.
Well, I mean, can you explain what SARMs stands for?
Man, it's so basically it's not just without defining it, it's not a steroid, but it's an androgen modulator,
Yep.
which acts very similar to steroids on the receptor, but it's also suppressive. So when you give a teenager who's developing something that suppresses their own testosterone, there's a lot of bad things that can happen because they're developing. And when you're developing, you don't want to hinder that development. And you don't want to put something that's hepatotoxic, which is liver toxicity, in your body. So I don't know if you're noticing. I don't think it's more because, again, we grew up in the era of pro hormones and Marc McGuire. So I don't think it's more, but I do see an issue with it. So have you noticed that kids are looking for shortcuts? Have you had to deal with that? How do you deal with that? What if a kid came to you and said, hey, I want to do this? Like, how do you deal with a kid who's looking at a short-term fix that would actually be a long-term nightmare?
Right. Any kid who knows me, they understand my philosophy of work and commitment. So something I speak about with kids all the time is we have some basic nutrition guidelines, 3 meals by 3 o'clock, 5 meals before bed.
I like
that. Drinking more milk throughout the day, chocolate milk. I think of books like Super Squats and
dude, I love you, man. You're that's kind of like our similar nutrition.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I could send you guys, it's a real basic one, but I've actually never had an athlete approach me about SARMs. And it's because when they're training with us, because we're not doing bullshit, they get fucking strong. And what I tell kids is like, you're at the age where you should get jacked looking at the weights, like without the use of any drugs. What do some of our athletes take? Protein powders, and they'll take pre-workout without me knowing about it.
Yeah. The SARMs, no one's ever come to me and asked my opinion because they know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But you hear them talking about it, and we had a female come up to us the other day. Remember that? I'm not going to say where it was because then we'll know who it was, because they will probably watch this. So, and she's like, she was concerned about her peers, and she's like, yo, these dudes are on a bunch of drugs.
Yeah. Oh,
I was like, well, here's the negatives of it. And she was just like concerned. So as a coach, I understand. See, now when I was in high school, I never did steroids. I didn't know they existed. I didn't know what they were. I thought it was something you could catch from eating raw chicken. I had no idea. And my school made me take a drug test. Not even playing. They asked me to. It was
really?
Yeah. So I had to take a drug test my senior year, junior going into senior year. I gained 70 pounds in 3 months in the summer. I hit puberty and I started lifting and I got acne from it, and everybody. Then I was that guy on steroids. It was kind of mortifying.
Like today, people, coaches will be like, "He got really big. He's got to be on SARMs." And I tell them, like, "Yo, when you're a kid, if you just like chow down on milk, steak, eggs, potatoes, and make your own protein shakes with like milk, ice cream, peanut butter, like you can get jacked. But it's interesting that people still don't understand it. And I'll
You're
tell them,
living in
like, yeah, this is actually normal for them to get big. And then the thing that I have noticed though about kids through the years is boys have boobs and beer bellies without drinking beer.
Yeah.
Right?
We
And
talk about this all the time.
Yep.
yeah, and I'm like, dude, I tell these kids, I go, when you're a teenager, I don't need you ripped, especially if you're like a lineman on the football team, but I should be able to see your abs. And like, if you're an athlete and can't do push-ups, that is a liability.
If
Like,
you're a
how
human and can't do push-ups, that's a
but
liability.
I'm with you on that. Like, why would you think? I always tell them, I'm like, what's gonna happen when the zombies attack? I'm like, you're dead. How do you get? I
Yeah,
spoke to my
It's a
buddy.
zombie apocalypse.
He goes, how do you get off the ground if you can't do a push-up? Like if you're a lacrosse player, football player, you get hit. How do you get? I was like, whoa, that's actually, James the Thinker Smith 20 years ago at a seminar was like, he's like, American kids that can't squat. He's like, think about this. That means you can't sit on the toilet.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
So 60% of the world does not have plumbing. 60% of the world squats to shit.
Dude.
You would fail in Japan. You would fail. Like you're literally shitting in a hole.
Yesterday I saw while my daughter had the county tournament in tennis, there was a dad, and I think they were Chinese. He was sitting in the squat while his daughter played for like 30 minutes. Yeah. And I was like, of course, I'm so like, your coaching, brain is going, I'm like, I can't believe he's still in a deep squat. His like ankles are perfect.
Oh, the Asian squat.
Just chilling out.
It's a part of their life, but they lose it. It's not genetic. So one thing we found from the Asian culture is once they came to America, they got fat. Everybody, at the beginning, I think it was in the 70s or 80s, they started studying like, my God, why is their obesity rate so low? And then we find that once they move here after one generation, they're just as fat as we are. Like it wasn't genetic. It's because all they eat is fish and rice.
Yeah,
like they eat a very clean diet
fish,
until
rice, lettuce. Our food in America is it's like poison. I don't want to call it, the junk food, like Sal Alosi says, he doesn't even call it food. It's just poison. And so I tell kids, I could look at your physique and I could see steak and potatoes, or I could see SpaghettiOs. I could see if you buy the school lunch and eat a bunch of processed food like Pop-Tarts and whatever's in a wrapper, or, I make breakfast for my kids every morning. I pack their lunch the night before. When they get home from school, they eat an early dinner. It's usually dinner leftovers. Then sports, this and that. They'll have dinner again, a real dinner. Then at night, it might be another breakfast. It might be a bowl of cereal with whole milk, and they got to drink the milk. My son will sometimes make himself a protein shake where we do water, 2 scoops protein powder, a banana, a spoon of raw honey, and he'll do a spoon of peanut butter. But I tell kids who are skinny, you got to drink milk. I actually, with this younger generation, I told this skinny kid, I was like, dude, for Christmas, ask your parents to buy you the book Super Squats. The next day he gets like a bootleg PDF and he's reading it. So when he comes in, he's always like, Coach, can I do super squats today? I'm like, absolutely. You want to fucking do 20 rep squats every day?
I love it.
Let's go for it. He's squatting, 95 pounds. Then it's 105. Then it's 135. But those squats, as we said earlier, they would write about this in Flex magazine and in the old Iron Man magazines. Squats had a systemic effect on the body. And if the early 2000s, you would get, there weren't a lot of websites to learn from, and there was no YouTube. So you were reading articles on Elite. Iron Mind had their magazine.
T-Mag came out.
T-Mag was out. And T-Mag, I actually went to a prison for almost over half a day to, interview inmates about training. So I always tell strength coaches today, I'm like, I called out sick from work and went to prison to learn about training. Wow. But you can't even go to a local seminar. I went to fucking prison for the day.
I love it. I think that we're on the same page as far as what kids eat. you're seeing, I mean, the packaged foods, there's something going on hormonally where boys are starting to be built like girls. They
Yeah.
have the
Big
hips and the thighs are fat. They
Yeah.
literally have, you know, boobs that will have to be removed surgically when they're older. And there's something going on. And the problem is I don't know if it's just being obese, because when you're fat, it throws off your testosterone to estrogen. It just does. So maybe it has nothing to do with plastic or whatever people say,
Right.
packaged foods. Maybe it's just the fact that what packaged foods do is they put a lot of calories in a little space. Like you go ahead and try to overeat on fruit.
Right.
It's
Or
really
steak.
difficult.
Oh,
You can't.
yeah. If you eat chips, you want more chips. But if you eat a steak, eventually you're like, I'm
Yeah.
full.
My
And
jaw hurts.
so it's
Yeah.
all I think it's just sugar, you know, the bad kind of sugar is what these kids eat. Like they'll skip breakfast, they eat school lunch, and then most meals are just carbohydrate loaded.
Yeah.
And it's
Yep.
crazy. Is like I speak to a lot of parents and they're like, man, I wish I had time to make breakfast. And it's like, bro, you're a fucking dad. You're gonna wake up 15 minutes early. And there's high school kids that say, I don't know how to make eggs. But as a kid growing up, and also parents working, I was working the stove and a toaster
Mhm.
oven and all that shit at age 7. And of
Oh, yeah.
course, once I read bodybuilding magazines and they said, you know, they eat egg whites and oatmeal, I started making egg whites and oatmeal every day. But now there was no intermittent fasting. You know, there was the anabolic diet by
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Morrow.
Yeah, but
Do you
now
remember
God.
I'm a little older than you, but when I was in high school, American Muscle Magazine was on ESPN. It was a video.
Yep. Yep.
It's
Of
fucking
course.
awesome.
Of course. And go ahead.
no, that I literally just had this conversation last night. Kids just A, they don't eat breakfast ever.
Yep.
B, they probably don't even bring their lunch to school. They don't even eat lunch.
Yep.
They probably get under 2,000 calories a day.
Well,
And
if
that's
they, and
what
if
you
they
need
do
to
eat,
survive.
if they do eat, it's McDonald's
Yeah,
or
but it's
Hardee's or and kids, you got to fuel it. Like good news is like my daughter is anal retentive with everything. So she cooks her meals, she packs her meals. She packs her meals more intently than I do when we go places. Like she's ready.
Nice.
You know, my kids always have food and snacks with them. Like we always tell them, like you're in charge of your snacks. If you say you're hungry, we ain't stopping. So our kids know that they have to get it in, especially like, you know, my one son, you know, he's an undersized kid. Well, he's at his weight cap now for wrestling, but you know, with him, it's like eat, and here's what you're gonna eat. Here's what you're gonna do, and fill in your calories as you want. But here's the basics of what you need. You get this much protein, and I think a lot of parents just don't know. So they don't know what guidance to give, and just look at a family shopping at the grocery store. In most communities, it's different when you get affluent. Affluent people usually buy better food. But you go to like most communities, go into a grocery store and it's 90. You might see a couple treats here and there, and the rest of it's, you know, perimeter of the store, meaning meat.
It's so
veggies,
easy
fruit.
to just shop the perimeter. But you're right. I say this all the time. People think I'm crazy unless these parents were competitive athletes in high school. Not even successful, but you competed, you were coached hard, a coach told you you got to train. So that stuff makes sense for me. And also it's so affordable. You could go into the you know, fruit and veggie, you get a bag of potatoes for $6. That could last a week.
Eating healthy is cheap. I don't even look, I don't budget. I'm at the point in life where I'm good, right? Like I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, when I go to the store, I'm not like, okay, honey, we only have $120. I'm like, oh, cool. We want beef or whatever. Like we don't have to. But if I was to put what I eat, and I eat a lot of food, I'm a pro bodybuilder, right? What I eat up against most people spend more at Wendy's every day than I do for all my meals for the day. People don't understand. You go to Wendy's, it's $10. You're not getting out of Wendy's for less than $10.
Fast food's expensive now. When
It's
I was in high
expensive as
school,
hell.
you could go to McDonald's and get 3 burgers and a drink for like $6 or
99-cent
$4.
Big Macs, bro. I used to live on those.
Right. And you know what? A high school athlete should be able to eat that stuff once a week. But like you guys said, they've been eating it since they were kids over and over. And now they have zero health. Let me ask you a question, Mark, because you're in Tennessee. Where are you picking up your food? Do you go to like a butcher or I go to a guy in Pennsylvania who's a Mennonite farmer. So it's really cool.
So I get a lot of my meat. I'm sponsored by a company called Piedmontese. Those are the steroid cows.
It's so
the myostatin cows. So it's Piedmontese.com. Coupon code Lobliner is 25% off.
Yes.
Marc Bell actually he turned me on to them, or he introduced us.
Yep.
Actually his brother Chris. So Piedmontese. I eat a lot of, I'll go to Costco and buy the bison. Bison is controlled by the USDA, so it's only going to be grain finished. So it's grass fed up until like the last month. Okay. So it's good bison. It's leaner. In the off season, I like to have fattier cuts of meat because fat's necessary.
Yeah.
A lot of eggs. We get the heritage eggs, the free range eggs. There's a huge difference in the fatty acid profile. If you can afford it, if you can't afford it, then get regular eggs. It's not that big of a deal.
Right.
So I think that, for me, it's a matter of so the problem is there are farms around here. It's just far, and I'm at a time crunch. So if I'm not ordering from Piedmontese, I'm definitely filling in the gaps with Costco. Yeah. And that's kind of where I get it. But my thing is, whether you're buying your meat from a butcher, from Kroger, it's still better than getting packaged meat. Now, I'm not talking about tuna. Tuna's fine. It's sodium for athletes is a good thing, but the fact of the matter is I see kids, and I'm watching one of the kids I used to coach at wrestling, and he's filming the football. But first thing he does, he breaks out a bag of Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
That
was my guy. I'm like, I didn't say a word. I'm like, I thought I taught you better.
Yeah. I tell kids, do get a thing of trail mix from Costco. Put trail mix in a Ziploc. So when I train,
I have so much trail mix here for my kid.
Yeah. When I train athletes after school at my high school, I tell them you need to eat another sandwich. Otherwise, lunch is at 10:30. By the time you're done with practice and sit and eat dinner, it might be 6:30. So our best athletes, they also do these like little extra workouts during their lunch. So they'll be doing, what do you call it? It's like a 20-minute lift, but you'll see kids squatting, farmer walks, cleans, barbell row. And they're like, I'm going for 4 sandwiches today. Like I had this for breakfast. I ate a sandwich before the lift. I'm going to eat a sandwich after the lift. I have another one before football. So now we're always like #2 sandwiches. And if somebody's skinny, I'm like, get on the sandwich system. And we say turkey, ham and cheese, turkey and cheese, peanut butter and jelly.
Peanut butter jelly. That is the gaining. That I had my son.
Chocolate milk.
Yeah. I had
Thomas eating 12 a day.
That and eating cartons of ice cream.
Yeah, well, the kid eats. Yeah, for him, it's like, okay, you got all your protein. Hey, you want ice cream? Go ahead. Like eat.
My kids too, because they're active and they've eaten healthy.
Bro, throughout the day. This kid's playing, he's wrestling and playing soccer. So he'll go from wrestling to soccer. I'm like, dude, you have no glycogen left in your body. Go eat something. Like wrestling in and of itself will kill you. Any combat sport is insane. And then he'll go straight from there and go to soccer. I'm like, well, I know I couldn't do that. Eat some ice cream. So yeah, and my other son is doing football and soccer. And so one day he might have a game in both. So now what we did learn is that a soccer game after football is going to be bad. It's that he's not going to play well, dude. I mean, after running in equipment, it was like 90 degrees out.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, just take him out. He's embarrassing everybody. Pull him out of the game. Stop. Yeah, it's
a lot. But those kids could eat the ice cream. But the kids who don't have muscle, who've got that busted up metabolism from eating the Wendy's, like you said all the time, they're screwed. And I don't know. I mean, they need quite an intervention to reverse what's happening to their body. As a teenager, like I said, you should be muscular. I don't know any other way to say it. So I'm pretty aggressive with our kids about constantly hammering home how to eat. And you mentioned the sandwiches and all that stuff. There's stories. I mean, it might be folklore of Dr. Ken Leisner. When his adopted son would go to school, he'd send him to school with like 10 tuna sandwiches.
Wow.
And his son's name, adopted son, Kevin Tolbert. There's some amazing photos. If you just Google image Kevin Tolbert, he'd say, the rule is you can't come home with them and you can't give them away. And so you have to eat like this. And Dr. Ken would train his kids with the high intensity method. So that one all out set, which I'm not really a fan of for sports performance, but his guys got jacked from it. And in the late 90s and even up to the early 2000s, Penn State was still doing HIIT training. And my buddy John, when he was at, I think he said, I don't know if he did it when he was with the Eagles or when he did it when he was at Cal Berkeley, but wherever I think it was a pro team, they had him doing a circuit on the hammer strength machines. And hammer strength is Gary Jones, his dad, Arthur Jones, was Nautilus. So I think some elements of machines are good, but you got to get on those free weights. And here's how I recommend to eat. Eat like you live on a farm. But if you're eating that way, you have to train, in that manner that is going to utilize that food. So my son, this morning was 2 scrambled eggs, 2 pieces of bacon, toast and butter. I make the lunch the night before, turkey sandwich, slice of cheese. I made bacon, so he had bacon on there, a granola bar, a banana. I can't remember, some sort of like oatmeal muffin. He's going to come home. We have burgers, so he'll have dinner leftovers. Then he's going to probably ride his bike to my gym, or unless he has basketball or baseball. And then he'll eat again. So he'll probably get 4 meals today, and he'll drink milk throughout the day. And he weighs 160 something, which when I was a senior in high school, I wrestled 160. So it's like, I did it all wrong.
Thomas has a famous tweet about him where his teacher got mad that he was eating in class. And his response was, it's bulking season.
Yeah.
And it was the email she sent me was so cute. It was so funny. And I'm like, so my son is technically undersized.
Yeah.
So for us, it's a good, he's actually perfect for his, for wrestling.
Yes.
But I mean, yeah, okay. So, hey, doctor says he has to eat. So it's caused a lot of issues, but no, my son he literally has containers of chicken and rice.
Yeah.
He's eating like a bro. And then I own a company called the Outright Bar. So our kids, our youngest, our 9-year-old eat 6 of those a day. That's 1,800 calories in bars.
A protein bar.
Yeah.
I know you have your own supplement company. So I apologize for
Nutrition, TigerFitness.com, Outright Bar, Ambrosia. I do a lot of weird things.
You've got ADD of the business, but I like it. You're killing all of it.
Well, I was in Ambrosia's in LA. So that's where I was with. And then of course we did the event at Iron Addicts. Then Tiger Fitness and MTS and Outright are in Ohio. So I'll probably be there tomorrow. So I get around, and then I'm here and we got our
I drove through Tennessee to go to Georgia last summer. So can you drive, what's Tennessee to Ohio? Is it a flight?
It's 5 hours. So I'll fly. I have 5-hour trips. So I either drive to Ohio for 5 hours each way, or I fly to California. So either way, my wife is mad. So I'm just like, dude, but we were fortunate where one of our companies, so we sold majority of it, which is great because our partners are amazing people, but it actually increased the workload because now I have a board and everything. So now I'm always flying to the West Coast. And so at the end of the day, why do we work? We're talking about a why. Why do we work? It's to provide for our family. So yeah. I'm here. I miss as little as possible. I'm at all the important games. I schedule on my daughter's junior season of high school in soccer. So, it's one of those where, and I coach my own kids. Yeah. So you try to do everything, and it's, but number one goal of me as a father is to provide. So I take that job seriously. And the problem with being someone,
work.
Yeah. The problem with being someone who has a provider mindset is sometimes you get so caught up in providing financially that you forget about providing in the other ways, emotionally and spiritually. And so that's where I've struggled.
Cause you're always switched on. And look, I've done that. And I like that you're, transparent about it. I also like to be transparent about those things because people might watch you or watch us and think it's so easy and happy-go-lucky. And so what you got to do is, really, my wife's the best at this. She locks down these family vacations.
Yep.
And like this weekend, we'll be in Maryland for baseball. It might rain. And she's like, maybe you just stay for one day. I'm like, I don't give a fuck if it's raining. Like, to me, the time together is awesome.
Bingo.
And so I will, shut down the gym. If somebody can't run it, cover it. We're never really in that situation, but I'm always ready. It's like family first, or we go to, we have like a fractional ownership up in upstate New York on a lake. And when we go there, that's our time.
Yep.
And, you were mentioning the food thing too. It's interesting when my daughter, plays all this tennis. She was hungry during the day and they weren't getting a snack after like second grade. So she was like so scared to eat. So my wife, of course, gets a note from the doctor. And my daughter's, eating, during class. And so I think anybody who's a teacher, if a kid is hungry, let the fucking kid eat. Like, what's the big deal? It's not communism.
Well, I mean, it depends. If you're in New Jersey, it is. We're in Tennessee. So in Tennessee, all of our schools are sports centric. So a lot of the coaches, a lot of the teachers are also like Thomas. He got in trouble with the teacher who wasn't a coach, but they're all very. If you need to eat, you eat. Like I don't think there's been one class where I've been able to break it open. A lot of kids just break open Thomas breaks out like a like your bodybuilding.
Yes,
and then but. Most of the teachers, there's not many pro bodybuilders running around. So like most teachers know they're my kids and they're like, it's fucking Lobliner's kid again, eating his fucking chicken and rice.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. Cause you're in Tennessee. So do you have a big property? Are you able to you have firearms or what do you have? Cause
I have firearms. But we have, we have a decent property. Not like a farm. We live in a subdivision. But we back to green space.
Okay.
So I don't have to talk to anybody and we're on a hill.
Nice.
So if I want neighbors, I walk down my driveway. If I don't want neighbors, I stay on top of my driveway. And then of course we have our facility we train at and we're right across the street from a beautiful park with hiking trails. And I mean, I'm not country. Like I grew up in LA. This is about as country and secluded as I can get. Like, my wife and I, I can't fix anything.
Where did you grow up in LA?
Man, I grew up right around Inglewood, Culver City, Inglewood area. Yeah.
Culver City is where the original West Side Barbell's from. Look, check this thing out. So this is a
dude, we need to hang. What city is your
it's a little town called Manasquan. So I'm like just shy of an hour from Manhattan and maybe a little over an hour away from Philly. It's a little beach town. And so this book is all the original West Side Barbell articles, and it's photos from Bill Peanuts West's garage gym, Culver City. So Jim Wendler gave this to me a long time ago. So like the original West Side Barbell.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And look how big it is. So,
I would give
I know
what's left of my left testicle for that book.
I'm the same way. My wife's always like,
I had a vasectomy. They don't even work anymore. They're pointless. They're just decorative at this point.
You would give your left nut for all that. So
my completely inoperative, useless left. I'm not going to make the joke, Bryce. I'm not going to go. There's an inside joke I'll keep inside.
So you mentioned Culver City. So I was like, that's where
Culver High, baby.
Yeah, Bill Peanuts West had the original West Side Barbell. But when I went to California, you mentioned the IDF. My older brother was also IDF sergeant. And so he had a friend. Where did I stay? Encino. His one of his teammates in the unit was in Encino. So I stayed in Encino. I'm not sure how far that is for Culver City. It was hot.
You were born in Israel. How did you get out of serving?
Well, we moved to America. I was a year old, and so I have dual citizenship. But my older brother,
if you go back there, they're going to make you. They're going to keep you.
No, they don't keep you there. I've been back there many times.
Really, I've never been.
I haven't been actually back for like 20 years. But
my daughter wants to use her birthright, so she gets to go.
My daughter's like,
awesome. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna go when I turn 18. I'm like, I'm aged out. I didn't even know that was a thing. And then I had an employee at the time who's Jewish.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm doing the birthright because he's like 29. I'm like, oh shit, me too. I'm like, oh no, it's like 33 it ends or something.
I heard it's cool.
I'm
I
like,
trained a kid.
what kind of Jew gives up a free trip?
Yeah, this kid was a real high level wrestler, wrestled at Princeton, and 4-time All-State, state champion New Jersey. So he went there and was like talking about how it was such a great trip for him. But my grandparents lived, both my parents' lived there. So whenever we went to Israel, it wasn't like I was a tourist. So who were my friends in Israel were my dad's friends' kids, his friends from the military. So they would take me, to where all these places. So it was a great, actually won the 1994 Young Mr. Israel. It was the 18 and under.
Oh, there's my next step. Take my pro card to Israel, beat up all the Jewish bodybuilders.
Dude, well, the guy at the time, his name was Eli Hanna, and he was pretty fucking jacked. He won. It's the NABA. He would win like
I was a NAB. So I got my NABA pro card in 2013, retired because my wife said I was an asshole, and she was correct, and came back in 2021 and got my IFBB pro card. So
what did you compete in the IFBB, or how did you get your IFBB pro card?
I won Masters USA in December, believe it or not. So it's recent because I gave up bodybuilding for 5 years and I took up boxing. And I actually got like not good, but like good enough to be like I was not pro level, but I was a above mediocre amateur. So I got to above mediocre level. And that was
enough to knock out a criminal.
I was like,
whoever tries to steal your wallet.
I would spar as much as possible. But like I think you'd be the same. Where when I was a boxer, I lived life like fucking Muhammad Ali. Like I'd wake up, do my road work, do my jump rope, and I'm like, oh shit. And then like my wife, it was July of 2021, and she's like, she literally pauses the TV, and I'm like, well, what's your problem? You need to stop boxing. And I'm like, well, why? She's like, because you keep getting your ass kicked. And I had no retort because she's right. I kept getting like, I'm undefeated in real fights, but like in actual sparring, like the people at my gym were just better than me. And I'm like, cool. I'm like, okay. So then like the next week I'm in LA and I get a call. I was sponsoring a bodybuilding show. My buddy Bino, who runs the Knox Class, he goes, hey, he was joking around. He's like, you should do the show. And I'm like, God, well, I can't box anymore. So I texted my wife and I'm like, can I do a show? I didn't train for bodybuilding for 5 years. And I literally in 10 days prepped for this show, won it, ended up doing North Americans, getting third. And then I'm like, I'm going to give it one more go. I wasn't even going to do it, but then I did Masters USA and I actually got my pro card. So
dude, I almost think it's impossible to compete as a family man and owning multiple businesses. I don't know how
so I was getting ready for the Tampa Pro.
Yeah.
And we went on vacation to Charleston. And at the same time, we were in due diligence. We just got done with due diligence to sell one of our companies. Yeah. If you've ever been through due diligence, it's 6 months. It was 6 months of daily calls. And imagine if someone looked at you from when you were born to now and picked out everything you've done wrong and nagged you about it every day. That's due diligence. So I was stressed. And I got rhabdo.
Stress will destroy your body.
It wasn't from competing. And then, of course, the internet's like, oh, it's because of all the drugs. I'm like, no, I think drugs would have probably prevented it. I mean, the problem is I was working. I could have probably worked less if I was taking some good drugs. But I was like, nah, I don't need to risk this. Next thing you know, like I have this. So I get back from when you were out of town. It's your fault, Bryce. So Bryce is out of town. So I'm picking up all his classes.
Wait, why was out of town?
You were out of town. That was when you went out of town for you were in Illinois, right?
No.
There was that week you were out that I covered for.
Yeah, that was my answer.
Oh, yeah. So that was does the world even know about we almost need to say now you just made it, so I have to say it.
No, she's just laughing.
Now we almost have to tell people what it was.
I don't care.
Bryce's testicle got inflamed. It was like it was like
a
fucking
softball.
Like I thought.
What happened? You had an STI.
No, I don't know what.
We're killing this guy.
It was the worst thing that's ever happened.
Bro, I saw
I had a lot of surgeries.
He sent a video. I saw my phone demonstrating a movement, and I'm like, when did Bryce get such a huge hog down there? And it turns out it was just his ball. Like,
yeah, you must have had an infection.
Yeah,
He's very embarrassed.
They have. The bad thing is they still don't know what happened. They have zero clue.
But he's done 5 porno videos.
You know what it could be, which I have heard, like being in the lifting community. It's like if you strain so much, it's almost like a form of rhabdo going into your testicles in some weird way.
Rhabdodicolysis.
Yeah, you had rhabdotesticulitis, something. You can be the first. You can be like a carrier. There was like COVID person number 1. You could be like rhabdo of the testicle.
I'm patient number 1.
So anyway, so I came back on it was a Tuesday.
Oh, God.
And
he's crying.
And my kids were playing wiffle ball, and I'm like, I want all the smoke. And Thomas, my son, threw the ball to me, and I couldn't pick it up. My back was so inflamed. It wasn't my back; it was my kidneys. That's when I'm like, okay, time to pull the plug. So yeah, it was, but it was a blessing, I think. And but yeah, it's all Bryce's fault.
Those damn kids, Bryce.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but he's better now. Are you better now?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay,
so
I haven't
seen the gym where you guys train, where I see videos, is in Tennessee,
Franklin, Tennessee. Yes, it's called Carbon Performance.
Carbon.
Yep.
And this is where Laura rents space.
Laura is in Loveland, Ohio. So she's at the Tiger Fitness gym, which is now called the Beehive at Tiger Fitness.
Oh, right. Yes.
And we have
she's the queen.
10. She's the best. Like, and the thing about she's so smart. She's got everything. She's smart. She's cute. She's strong. Like she's great. Like anybody.
I have a friend that hires her to go to his gyms. He has multiple sport performance gyms in Wisconsin, and so his staff is trained under her.
She's insane. The amount of knowledge, the fact that she doesn't have 10 billion followers upsets me.
Listen, this social game is so tricky.
Yes.
Like you said, you were talking about like, all right, my daughter's cute. She's strong. You know, I could always look back and be like, oh, I wish I had video footage of what I did when I was younger, because people don't want to listen to you unless you're fucking like 250 ripped. And it gives this like, you know, that's how people perceive you, and that's their reality. And I even say, as a coach, somebody may not perceive my knowledge to be high because they don't see me training a Major League Baseball player or an NFL pro. But let's say I was like, you know, let's say you were my best friend growing up and you got into the NFL and I start training you and posting it on Instagram. Now people will think I'm God and you're in the NFL because of me. And that's what they perceive. They see you with somebody. And Dan Kennedy, who was like, you know, did a lot of the marketing of the 90s and early 2000s, he used to teach business owners to get like a former pro athlete to come to your like in-person store. Yeah. But in today, it would be like a celebrity is anybody who has like a big social following. So, you know, somebody was in Chicago, they would get like his name was the Refrigerator Perry. He was line. Yep, so this store would hire him to like show up when I don't know what they sold, refrigerators or clothing, but they attached to a celebrity. And so people, it grew the person's business. And like, it's like anything. Piedmontese gets Marc Bell to promote it a lot, and they get you to promote a lot. People just believe you because you have that bigger following. And Laura, by the way, her information is educational.
Yes.
And so guess what? People are not that interested in like the deep dive of education.
No, but it's the people we want. Like what I found.
It's the right people.
So we have, like, for example, Ambrosia, we have an entire department geared towards this, right? You could have a guy or a girl with 1,000 followers who converts more people than someone with 1 million.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between doers and viewers. So I'd rather have quality impressions that actually convert versus just getting whatever. So we have a little of each. Like, for example, a really quality. So we spot, you know who Kevin Gates is, the rapper. So he's one of our guys at Ambrosia, and he actually has a really quality following, which is also 10 million deep on Instagram alone. So if you could combine quality and quantity, it's great. But a lot of times these people with really big numbers have really poor conversions. Whereas the sweet spot is that 10 to 100,000 range where they still have their base and they haven't quite, I hate to use the word, sold out to just whatever gets clicks.
Sure.
They're actually providing some tangible, good information. So, it's not about building your numbers, it's about building your quality. And that's where, like I'm not, I have a pretty big following, but I still do what I want. Like I want to educate, I don't want to do these crazy, is he nutty or not? Man, I've done those in the past. They get views, but like, I just don't see the point of that.
Right. Who's watching that and what are they taking action with your products that you want them to utilize to get better? Or are they just the person scrolling through? And even like I should have done it a long time ago. The YouTube game, I should have had a videographer and thumbnails. And my videos that are shorter, including the shorts, they get, of course, more videos than like I posted a shoulder health video. It's like 23 minutes. That video is so important for every coach and athlete. And I was like, I'm not going to cower or cater to like what you're saying to the people that just want clickbait shit. I want to really help people with shoulder health. And
that's going to be a quality view. So you can get 100 quality views or 1 million shit views. Like I have a video with like 10 million views about a guy who took Synthol and it was just me making fun of him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool and all, but did it actually engage anybody? Did it change anybody's life?
I like that.
No, but it was entertaining.
Yeah.
I guess it made them happy, gave them a little dopamine rush. Yeah. But did it actually help them become better people? The answer is no.
Yeah, you're right.
It's not. But on that note, so where can you got a ton of stuff, dude. Where can people find you? I want everyone to follow you. I'm going to cut this up into little ones too and put it out there. Yeah. Where can people find you? What can they, what are you about? Like, just let's.
Sure. I think I do an almost daily morning email at zachstrength.com. They've got a free training course. It's like an old style power bodybuilding training course that I want people to use. And every morning I might put out some training information, some life stuff. Like the other day I put out I just started writing in the morning and it came out to 25 life lessons or life tips. I turned it into a podcast. So I'll send stuff like that in the morning. So go to zachstrength.com. Then on my social, everything is Even-Esh from Instagram to YouTube. And for coaches, it's cool seeing you guys with the gyms. I have 2 certifications. We have the underground strength coach certification. And then the next level is called the SSPC, which is the strength and sports performance coach certification, where that really, it's like goes from just strength and conditioning and power work to speed and agility, the psychology of getting people to understand what you're talking about when you're talking to parents of athletes or coaching the kids. So it's basically like how the underground strength gym evolved. But both of them are things I've used to work at the Division I level. A couple of years ago, I was at Naval Special Warfare to work with the SEAL teams, and I've been asked to come out again. So one of the guys is organizing that. So it's really cool. Like I want to share that training information, like what you're talking about, so people can. It's confusing out there. That's what's interesting. So see this guy talking about. Shoulder is a common injury from weightlifting.
It's such. We just got through rehabbing a friggin' amazing athlete. Oh, she came in and I hate to go off tangent, but physical therapists, they're letting me down. Yeah, they're letting me down because we were able to do in 2 weeks.
Oh wait, just
one session.
No, 3 weeks, but. She can shoot basketball now.
Yeah,
completely.
But she's been 3 months with a physical therapist and
3 weeks
hasn't done anything to actually. Sure, they've done some whatever's cookie cutter, but he never actually got it where
you need a performance physical therapist. I have a couple of go-tos. We've got the guys in Indiana. So Mike Robertson and Bill Hartman. Mike is not a physical therapist, but Bill is. so they understand it. My friend has a place in New York City, North Jersey, and Connecticut. They're called Resilient Performance Physical Therapy.
Okay.
So if I've got, let's say my own kids had something going on, I'm going to my buddy Doug and Trevor. Those guys are, that's what we call performance-based physical therapy. It's what Kelly Starrett does.
Yep.
And I also implement, if you want to be a strength coach, you have to know prehab, rehab stuff. You have to study old Dick Hartzell videos with the band. You have to study Donnie Thompson with his body tempering. You have to understand how to get athletes to feel better.
You really got to go see Donnie.
Dude,
we really got to see Zach
yes.
too.
Yeah. So
We should meet somewhere in the middle. I got to come to Tennessee. I drove through going to Georgia for my daughter's tennis, and I was like, it's fucking beautiful.
It's unbelievable.
Obviously, we'd put you up, but
I want a gym in my backyard. I'm not like you. I don't know if I want 7 businesses.
You know what?
He's the machine for a reason.
Don't. I mean, I love it, but oh man, it's an undertaking.
Well, I mean, I think going on the education part with Coach Zach, even you're doing the seminar with XPE with Tony.
Dude, I'm excited for that. If you guys want to come out for that, Tony is down in Florida. Tony is
Isn't it in Florida?
No,
it's going to be in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
But Tony owns or co-owns a place in Florida
XPE.
where him and his coach, they basically churn out the fastest guys in the NFL. And
that's the book I got to send you.
Okay, so let's do this. We need a follow-up. There's
Sure.
so many questions I have. I mean, so many, but
I think Bryce has my cell number, but I'll message it to him again and we'll get it going.
well, let's find out when that seminar is.
Okay.
The meetup
It's soon.
and we'll
It's
see.
any minute now.
But man,
2 weeks actually.
yeah, it's probably free. All right. Well, thank you so much, brother.
Great,
for your
guys.
time.
Thank you so much.
Everybody go down below. Check everything out. We appreciate you so much for coming on. And yeah, man, anything you need, just let us know.
Thank you guys. And thanks to everybody who listened.
Absolutely. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Take care.
Bye, guys.